What if I told you that the person you've been waking up as every single morning isn't actually you? That the version of yourself you present to the world, the one with the same reactions, same fears, same excuses, same dreams left unfulfilled, isn't who you're meant to be. It's just who you've practiced being. Think about it. You wake up, grab your phone, scroll. Same thoughts flood in, same mood settles in. You drive to work thinking the same thoughts you had yesterday. You talk to the same people, react to the same stress in the same way. And at night, you go to sleep telling yourself tomorrow will be different, while knowing damn well tomorrow will be a carbon copy of today. Let me ask you something. Are you actually living? Or are you just repeating? You see, people think change is about willpower, about motivation. It's not. Change is about identity. It's about recognizing that the way you've been showing up isn't your destiny, it's your decision. But here's the real problem. Most of us are loyal to a version of ourselves that's outdated, familiar, safe, small, and we call it realism, maturity. This is just how I am. But what it really is fear. Fear dressed up as logic. So if you feel stuck, if you're frustrated, if deep down you know you're capable of more but can't figure out why you're not moving, it's because you've been living in the echo chamber of who you've always been, and you can't build a new life with an old identity. What you're about to hear is not just motivation, it's a confrontation with the habits, beliefs, and emotional addictions that have been quietly dictating your life while convincing you it's just fate. It's not. Because the truth is, you were never meant to live on repeat. You were meant to evolve. And evolution starts when you stop saying, this is who I am, and start asking, who do I want to become? Let's talk about that. You're not stuck. You've just been repeating yourself. And the scariest part, you didn't even notice it happening. Day after day, you wake up and think the same thoughts. You feel the same emotions. You make the same choices. And those choices lead to the same actions, which create the same results, which reinforce the same identity. Before you even realize it, you're not living a life, you're living a loop. You call it your personality, you call it your reality, but it's not, it's your programming. Most people don't realize how automated they've become. They go through life reacting the same way. To every challenge, every trigger, every opportunity, someone criticizes you, and like clockwork, you shrink. You get overwhelmed, and just like always, you procrastinate, you feel fear, and without thinking, you run back to comfort. Not because it's who you are, but because it's who you've practiced being for so long. You've rehearsed your limitations so much that they've become second nature. But what if you pause just for a moment and ask yourself, is this really me? Or is this just a habit I've been calling myself? You see, there's a part of your brain that wants to keep you alive, not successful, not fulfilled, just alive. That part of you loves patterns. It loves predictability. Because as far as it's concerned, if you're repeating yesterday, it means you survived yesterday. So it tells you, good job, do it again. Even if yesterday was miserable, even if yesterday was painful, even if yesterday was beneath your potential. Repetition feels safe, and safe is what your brain craves more than anything else. But here's the problem. Repetition can also become a prison, a comfortable prison, with nice furniture, decorated by your excuses, surrounded by your justifications, lined with the wallpaper of every time you told yourself, this is just who I am. Let me tell you something. Just because you've been doing something for years doesn't mean you have to keep doing it. Just because you've thought a thought 1,000 times doesn't make it true. Just because you've always reacted a certain way doesn't mean that's the only way. You're not a tree, you're not cement, you're not fixed. You are a human being, and you are designed to grow, to shift, to evolve. But growth requires something most people avoid at all costs, awareness. It takes awareness to stop in the middle of a reaction and realize, wait, I've been here before. It takes awareness to recognize when your emotions are just echoes of your past. It takes awareness to admit that your default behaviors are no longer serving you, and they probably never were. The truth is, most of us are not thinking. We're remembering. Most of us are not making conscious choices. We're repeating unconscious ones. And here's where it gets even more real. Repetition doesn't just shape your habits, it shapes your identity. The more you tell yourself, I'm just not a confident person, the more your brain accepts that as reality. The more you say, I always mess things up, the more you believe it. And belief is powerful. Belief becomes your lens, your filter, your story. And most people are walking around not even living their story. They're living the story someone else told them about who they are, and they never stop to question it. But here's the thing. You can rewrite the story. You can step out of the loop. You can break the habit of being yourself. Not by force, not by pretending, but by becoming aware, by catching yourself in the act, by disrupting the autopilot. It starts small. You notice your tone when you speak to yourself. You recognize when you're avoiding something, not because it's impossible, but because you're afraid. You interrupt the mental script that says, I can't, and you replace it with, I'm learning. You start asking, is this decision coming from my future self or from my past? That question alone can change your entire life. But let me be clear, this process isn't comfortable. In fact, it's deeply uncomfortable. It's not easy to break a pattern you've lived inside for years. It's not easy to stop mid-reaction and choose something different. It feels unnatural, it feels fake, but that's only because the real you, the evolved you, is a stranger you haven't spent enough time with yet. And this is why most people don't change. Not because they can't, but because they're unwilling to sit in that awkward in-between space where the old you is dying and the new you hasn't fully arrived yet. But if you can stay there, if you can sit with the discomfort, resist the urge to run back to what's familiar, and keep showing up differently, even when it feels unfamiliar, you'll start to build a new identity. Not one based on memory, but one based on vision. Because the moment you start acting like the person you want to become, instead of the person you've always been, the game changes. That's when new opportunities show up. That's when people treat you differently. That's when your reality starts to shift. Because reality is always responding to who you are being, not who you say you want to be. So, no, you're not stuck. You've just been looping. You've been reliving the same emotional experiences, telling the same stories, repeating the same patterns, and calling it your life. But it doesn't have to stay that way. You get to choose again. You get to show up differently. You get to become someone new, not because the old you was bad, but because the new you is ready. And the only question left is, are you? Most people don't even realize they're in a cage. Because it's comfortable. Because it doesn't hurt. Not enough. Because it's familiar. And that's the danger. The cage doesn't come with chains. It comes with cozy routines. With the same predictable habits. With a life that looks fine on the outside, but feels empty on the inside. That's how the comfort zone works. It disguises itself as peace, when really it's quiet resignation. You wake up in the morning, and everything is the same. Same thoughts, same schedule, same people, same conversations. You convince yourself that it's all okay, you've got a roof over your head, food on the table, and no one's yelling at you. So why shake things up, right? Why stretch? Why grow? Why challenge anything? Because deep down you know something is missing. That voice inside you, the one you keep silencing, it knows you're built for more. It knows you're playing small, but the comfort zone whispers back, don't risk it. Don't change, don't make waves, just stay here. It's easier, and that voice is seductive. But let me be clear, easy will ruin you. Comfort will cost you more than effort ever will. Because while you're waiting for the right time, for the perfect plan, for things to settle down, life is passing you by. Growth is passing you by. And the worst part is, you don't even see the bars of the cage anymore. You've decorated it. You've made it look pretty. You've filled it with distractions, with routines, with justifications. I don't want to leave this relationship yet. Maybe they'll change. I'll start my business when I feel more confident. I don't have time to work on myself. I'm just too busy. No, you're not too busy. You're too comfortable. You've confused familiarity with safety. But just because you've survived this way doesn't mean you're thriving. There's a massive difference between existing and living, and you feel that difference in your soul whether you admit it or not. Think about all the times you told yourself you would do something and didn't, all the promises you broke to yourself, all the opportunities you turned down because they were too much, too fast, or not the right time. That's not logic. That's fear dressed up as logic. And fear loves your comfort zone because it knows that as long as you're comfortable, you'll stay obedient, you'll stay quiet, you'll stay average. But deep inside you, there's a part that's restless, that wants to scream, that wants to run, that wants to break free. You weren't made to live a life that feels like a checklist. You weren't made to numb yourself through another series, another scroll, another safe decision. You were made to stretch, to leap, to explore the edges of who you are and who you could be. But none of that happens in comfort. All of your potential, it lives outside the zone. Every version of you that inspires others, that takes the stage, that starts the business, that leads with confidence, that version is just beyond what's familiar. And no one's going to drag you there. You've got to walk through the fear on your own. You've got to be willing to be uncomfortable. Here's the truth. Growth hurts. It requires risk. It requires failure. It requires uncertainty. But do you want to know what hurts even more? Staying the same. Waking up 5 years from now and realizing you're still stuck in the same patterns, still playing small, still talking about the same dreams you never went after. That kind of pain is slow and invisible, but it's deadly. It eats at your spirit. It drains your confidence. And eventually it convinces you that maybe you were never capable of more in the first place. But you were. You still are. You've just been hiding, playing safe, and it's not your fault. Most of us were taught to do this. We were raised to choose safety over satisfaction, to follow the rules, to not rock the boat. But those same rules were written to keep you compliant, not to keep you fulfilled. You're allowed to want more. You're allowed to outgrow people. You're allowed to make decisions that scare the hell out of you, but light your soul on fire. You're allowed to walk away from what's working if it's no longer aligned, and you're allowed to fail. Because failure is not the enemy. Stagnation is. And the only way you avoid stagnation is by stepping into uncertainty. Again and again, you must become the kind of person who does hard things, who chooses growth over ease, who understands that comfort is a lie that kills your potential, one quiet day at a time. So ask yourself, what are you protecting by staying comfortable? What are you sacrificing? Whose version of you are you living? And when did you stop asking if it still fits? It's time to stop rearranging the furniture inside the cage. It's time to stop polishing the bars. You were not meant to live a small life. You were not born to blend in, to tolerate, to settle. Rip the walls down, make a mess, be seen, be bold, be afraid, and do it anyway. Because everything you want, every goal, every breakthrough, every moment that makes your heart race, it's all waiting for you, just outside the cage. So the only question that matters now is, are you willing to get uncomfortable to get there? Every day you wake up and wear an identity. Sometimes it's loud and proud, confident, driven, focused. Other days it's subtle, like a quiet hum beneath the surface, tired, unsure, invisible. But here's the thing, no one tells you your identity isn't something you're born into. It's something you choose moment by moment, choice by choice, day by day. You weren't born shy, you weren't born insecure, you weren't born unworthy. You became those things, or rather you practiced being those things until it felt normal, until you stopped questioning it. And now you walk through life carrying labels you didn't even write for yourself. Maybe someone once said you were too much, too loud, too quiet, too sensitive, too aggressive. Maybe someone left and you made it mean something about your worth. Maybe you failed and you decided that failure was your identity. And from that moment on, you've been describing yourself based on pain, not truth. But here's the truth. Identity is not a fixed thing. It's fluid. It's malleable. It evolves with you, or it stagnates because of you. And the longer you keep saying, this is just how I am, the longer you're reinforcing a version of yourself that might no longer serve you, or worse, never did. When you say, I'm not confident, what you really mean is, I haven't practiced confidence enough to believe it yet. When you say, I'm not good with people, what you mean is, I've repeated enough awkward social experiences that I've decided to wear them like a badge. Or you can take that badge off. You can throw it on the ground and say, this isn't who I am anymore. You are not your trauma. You are not your triggers. You are not your fears, your failures, or the worst thing that's ever happened to you. You're also not the compliments, the awards, the social mask you wear to impress people who don't even see you. You are whoever you decide to be. And decision is the key word here, because so many people wait for the outside world to give them permission. They wait for someone to validate the change. They wait to feel ready, to feel different, to feel transformed before they act different. But it doesn't work like that. You don't wait to feel like a leader before you lead. You don't wait to feel brave before you speak up. You don't wait to feel worthy before you set the boundary. You decide and then you act. And over time, the action reshapes the belief, not the other way around. So if you want to become someone new, you have to stop describing yourself as someone old. Think about how many times a day you reinforce the version of you that you're trying to outgrow. I'm so bad with money. I'm terrible at relationships. I always overthink everything. Every time you say it, even as a joke, even casually, you're casting a vote for that identity. And eventually, those votes win the election. Eventually, you stop trying to be anything else. But you can flip the script. You can ask yourself, who do I want to be today? Not in 5 years, not when life settles down. Today, what does that person look like? What do they say no to? How do they carry themselves? How do they think? How do they walk into a room? How do they handle pressure? Now live like that. Even if it feels strange, especially when it feels strange, because that discomfort, that's the feeling of transformation. That's the space between the old you and the new one. And you've got to be willing to walk through it. Don't wait for anyone to name you. Name yourself. You want to be strong? Decide. You want to be powerful? Decide. You want to be healed, disciplined, respected, loved? Decide. And then move like it's already yours. Because identity doesn't arrive by accident. It's built through alignment. When your actions match your intention. And the more you act in alignment with who you want to become, the faster you become it. Let go of the need to feel authentic. All the time, authenticity is important. Yes, but not when it's just a euphemism for staying stuck. Not when you're confusing comfort with truth. Growth isn't always going to feel authentic because you're stepping into territory that's unfamiliar. And that's okay. You don't need to feel like it's you right away. You just need to trust that it can be. You're not faking it. You're forming it. And this is where the real shift happens. When you stop defining yourself by your past and you start defining yourself by your possibility. When you stop collecting evidence for why you can't and start gathering proof that you already are. When you stop thinking of identity as a description and start using it as a declaration. So no more waiting, no more apologizing for wanting more. No more shrinking to fit into a life you've already outgrown. You are not obligated to stay loyal to a version of yourself that you've out-evolved. You are allowed to become someone new. You are allowed to leave behind a narrative that kept you small. You're not here to be a rerun. You're here to be a reinvention. So starting now, decide who you are and don't just speak it, show it, live it, move like it, commit to it when no one's watching, especially then, because the most powerful thing you can ever do is become someone on purpose. Pain is inevitable. But when pain turns into identity, you stop healing and start hiding. You start walking through the world not as yourself, but as your wounds. Every conversation, every decision, every relationship becomes filtered through what hurt you, who disappointed you, what broke you. And after a while, you don't even notice it. You don't say, I'm still healing. You say, this is just who I am now. But that's a lie. Pain tells you. It tries to convince you that the emotions you felt in your darkest moments are somehow permanent fixtures of your personality. That fear means you're fragile. That heartbreak means you're unlovable. That anger means you're hard to love. But none of that is true. Those are just moments you lived through, not definitions of who you are. Yet most people let their emotional history become their personal brand. They wear it like armor. They lead with it. And then they wonder why they keep getting the same results, attracting the same people, repeating the same cycles. It's because they're not responding to life from the present. They're reacting to it from their past. When you don't master your emotions, they master you. They hijack your logic. They twist your perspective. They shrink your capacity. They convince you that protecting yourself is more important than evolving. And slowly your life starts to revolve around avoiding pain instead of pursuing purpose. How many opportunities have you walked away from? Not because you weren't capable, but because your emotions told you it wasn't safe. How many times have you sabotaged something good? Not because it was wrong for you, but because it triggered something old in you. That's what happens when your pain becomes your personality. You start responding to the present with tools built for survival in your past. But survival and fulfillment are not the same thing. You don't get to build a new life while dragging your old emotional narrative into it. You can't walk confidently into your future if you're still tiptoeing through old wounds. Yes, you were hurt. Yes, it was unfair. Yes, someone should have treated you better. But no, they don't get to shape the rest of your life. Not unless you let them. You see, emotional mastery isn't about pretending nothing happened. It's not about suppressing or ignoring what you feel. It's about recognizing your emotions, understanding them, honoring them, and then choosing not to be ruled by them. It's saying, yes, I feel fear, but fear isn't driving today. It's saying, yes, I feel sadness, but sadness doesn't get to dictate how I show up. It's saying, yes, anger is present, but it doesn't get to decide my tone, my reaction, my future. That's power. That's ownership. That's what it means to stop letting your pain hold the microphone. Because pain will always speak, but you get to decide if it becomes your voice. Some people will argue, but this is just how I am. No, it's how you became. There's a difference. Who you are at your core isn't bitterness. It isn't fear. It isn't distrust. That's just armor you put on to feel safe. And maybe you needed it at one point, but ask yourself this. Do you still need it now? You don't. What you need now is clarity. Clarity on what belongs to your past and what belongs to your future. Because if you keep dragging every emotional scar forward, you'll keep reliving the same storyline, no matter how many fresh starts you try to create. And let's talk about triggers. Triggers aren't signs that you're broken. They're signs that there's still pain inside you asking to be acknowledged. Not indulged, not dramatized. Just acknowledged. When you get triggered, pause. Don't run from it. Don't lash out. Ask yourself, what part of me feels unsafe right now? What story am I telling myself based on this feeling? Because most of the time, it's not even about what just happened. It's about what it reminds you of. Mastery means pausing before reacting. Mastery means holding yourself accountable to the person you want to become, not just surrendering to who you used to be. It means refusing to let your pain speak for you anymore. And yes, it's hard, especially when pain has been your comfort zone, especially when you've used it to shield yourself for years. But ask yourself this, has it really protected you or has it isolated you? Has it really made you stronger or has it kept you from trusting, from growing, from trying again? You are allowed to let go of the pain. You're allowed to stop telling the story that makes you the victim. You're allowed to say, that happened to me, but it's not who I am anymore. Because when you take your power back from your past, your life expands. You begin to respond with intention instead of defense. You begin to lead with curiosity instead of fear. You begin to show up as the version of you that's no longer afraid to feel, to heal, and to evolve. You get to choose what defines you. Every day, every moment, every emotional crossroads is another chance to either reinforce the pain or release it. So don't let your past experiences become your present excuses. Don't let one chapter of heartbreak become the whole book. You've got more to write, more to live. But that only happens when you stop identifying with what broke you and start building from what it taught you. You're not too damaged. You're not too late. You're not too emotional. You're human, and humans can heal. They can transform. They can rewrite their story, but only if they stop letting their pain be the author. Reinvention isn't a lightning bolt. It's not a movie moment with dramatic music and instant transformation. It's not a speech you hear once, a quote that inspires you, or a single breakthrough that flips the switch. Reinvention is slow, it's intentional, it's uncomfortable, and it's daily. It's not something you decide once and magically become. It's something you choose over and over again. Especially when it's hard, especially when no one's watching, especially when that old you is whispering, come back, it's easier here. Most people love the idea of reinvention, but not the reality of it. They love the fantasy of waking up as a new version of themselves. Confident, disciplined, focused, fearless, but they don't want the repetition, the discipline, the discomfort, the quiet. They want the outcome, not the process. But here's the truth. Real change is not an event. It's a ritual. It's the small, gritty, often boring actions you take every single day when motivation isn't there. It's the way you respond when you fail. It's the way you speak to yourself when no one else is around to validate you. It's the choices you make when no one's keeping score. That's where the new version of you is built. Because the old you doesn't just disappear the moment you decide to grow. That version of you, the one filled with fear, self-doubt, procrastination, people-pleasing, avoidance, that version is trained. It's familiar, and it will keep showing up again and again, trying to drag you back into your default settings. So when you say, I'm going to change, expect resistance, expect relapse, expect moments where you slip, where you forget, where the old patterns feel so comfortable, you're tempted to slide right back into them. But that doesn't mean you failed. It means you're human. And this is what reinvention actually looks like. Recognizing the slip, catching yourself sooner, and choosing again. You don't reinvent yourself by being perfect. You do it by being consistent. You show up to the gym, not when it's convenient, but when it's raining, when you're tired, when no one's cheering you on. You stick to the new mindset, not when everything is going great, but when you're anxious, when life disappoints you, when your emotions try to hijack your day. That's how you build the new you, not in moments of ease, but in moments of tension, when you choose alignment over autopilot. Reinvention is a recommitment. Daily, it's a declaration you make to yourself. Every morning, I will not be who I used to be. Even if no one notices, even if no one believes me yet, even if I'm scared, I will act like the version of me I haven't fully met yet. That's the mindset. And that version of you? It's not in the distance. It's not some far-off fantasy. It's inside you right now, waiting. Waiting for you to stop hesitating, waiting for you to stop sabotaging, waiting for you to stop expecting results without effort. That version is built every time you decide not to betray yourself. But you've got to understand something. The old you will not leave quietly. They'll try to show up in your habits, your thoughts, your cravings, your comfort zone. They'll say things like, to skip it today, one time won't matter. You'll never actually follow through anyway. Why even try? This is too hard. Just go back to what's familiar. And here's where the ritual begins. You listen, but you don't obey. You acknowledge the voice, but you don't live by it, because now you're someone different. Not because you feel like it, but because you decide to be. You don't wait for confidence, you build it. You don't wait for clarity, move and let clarity find you. You don't wait to feel ready, you show up again and again until readiness becomes irrelevant. It's in the doing that identity changes, not in the thinking, not in the hoping, not in the visualizing alone. Reinvention lives in your calendar, in your morning routines, in the things you choose to say yes to, and especially the things you finally say no to. Want to reinvent your life? Start with your standards. Raise the bar on how you treat yourself, on what you tolerate, on how you speak, on how you show up even when nobody else expects anything from you. That's the power of ritual. It's not about big, flashy actions. It's about consistency with integrity. And yes, you'll have setbacks, days where you feel like nothing's changing, days where the old habits feel stronger than your will, days where you wonder if all this effort is even worth it. It is, because the quiet days count, the lonely days count, the days where it's just you, your decision, and your discipline. That's where real transformation happens. That's when you prove to yourself that this isn't just another temporary phase. This is who you are now. So don't ask yourself, did I change today? Ask, did I stay in alignment today? Did I make choices my future self would thank me for? Did I speak like the person I'm becoming? Did I act with discipline even when motivation disappeared? Because that's the blueprint. Reinvention doesn't come with applause. It comes with patience. It's not about intensity. It's about frequency. You don't have to go viral. You just have to go again. So keep showing up. Keep choosing the future version of you. Keep honoring the ritual until one day you wake up, look in the mirror, and realize you're not pretending anymore. You are the person you once only imagined. And it didn't happen all at once. It happened because you didn't quit, because you didn't wait, because you made reinvention your lifestyle, not just a wish. That's what separates those who dream of changing from those who actually do, the ones who build it into who they are. Every day, relentlessly, quietly, without needing permission. That can be you. Starting now, you don't become someone new by accident. You don't stumble into your potential. You build it, you fight for it. You choose it every single day. And the hardest part? Choosing it when it would be so much easier to go back to the old you. The version that was accepted, predictable, easy to explain, the version everyone else was comfortable with. But comfort never made anyone legendary. Repetition never led to reinvention. You weren't born to live on autopilot. You weren't meant to carry the same pain, repeat the same cycles, or stay stuck in a loop of who you used to be. You were born to evolve, to wake up one day and not recognize the old version of yourself. Not because you're ashamed of who you were, but because you're so proud of who you've become. This isn't about changing for the world. This is about changing for you. Because you're the one who has to live with your choices. You're the one who has to feel the weight of the dreams you buried. You're the one who knows exactly what you're capable of and what you've been avoiding. So stop waiting for a sign, be the sign. Stop waiting for motivation, be the discipline. Stop waiting for the world to change, be the one who changes. You don't owe loyalty to your past, you owe honesty to your future. And the most honest thing you can do for yourself is to say, I'm done living the same year over and over again. I'm done calling survival a personality. I'm done waiting to feel different before I act different. Because you're not stuck, you're not broken, you're not too late. You are capable right now of becoming someone no one, including you, has ever seen before. All it takes is one decision. And then another, and another. That's how you break the habit of being yourself. That's how you become unrecognizable in the best possible way. That's how you take your power back. Now go live like it.